The voices are getting louder. Everyone's starting to point out the obvious. And I've been saying it since the end of the Michigan game.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC part of the Locked On Network, your first listen every day. Whether you're watching the show on YouTube, wherever you're going to download this podcast, the show is always going to be free, and the show is always going to appreciate your support. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you're going to get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. It's time for Lincoln Riley to hire an offensive coordinator, someone who can call the plays. I've been saying this out loud, like I said, top of the show, since the end of the Michigan game. Others are starting to point out that, USC's offense doesn't have a lot of balance right now. And the imbalance literally says, run the ball more. Remember when I said I like boring football? Run the ball, use the tight ends. That's when USC is really successful on offense. That's when they're their most productive. They don't have a lot of explosive plays right now. A lot of that is attributed to the offensive line. But we're not going to beat that dead horse at the moment. What I'd like to point out is that Lincoln Riley, he likes to run an RPO style on offense. And that means you have to incorporate the quarterback into the run game occasionally. So there might be a correlation here, but because, Miller Moss, he doesn't run the ball a lot on purpose or not enough. And we're never going to know if that's by design or if he's not reading the defense correctly some of the times. But you just kind of get the impression that they don't want Miller running the ball on those RPOs, exposing his body more than he's already getting exposed when he's back, dropping back to pass. Now, when we're saying that USC is not running the ball enough, his lack of rushing attempts, if Lincoln Riley's going to use the RPO, that plays into the calculus. So we have to keep that in consideration. So with that in mind, let's look at some numbers, do some comparisons here. Right now, in 2024, USC is second in the country in pass attempts, but they're way down the list in triple digits when it comes to running the ball. They're 124th in rushing attempts. Okay. They're, like I said, they're second in the country in pass attempts. Someone please explain this to Coach Riley, because he has to know, and I'm sure he does know, but maybe somebody could remind him, tap him on the shoulder and say, hey, Mark said this. If USC ranks 26th in the nation in yards per rush, and they're 100th in the country in yards per pass, why aren't they running the ball more? I'll say it again. Why aren't they running the ball more? Look, I know head coaches are stubborn, but someone needs to make this make sense. Why is Lincoln Riley calling plays that can't be executed consistently when you have an offensive line that's been inconsistent with pass protection? I'll remind everybody again. Miller Moss threw the ball, dropped back 50 times to throw. 50 pass attempts in this game against Maryland. It's too many times. I mean, you can't pass protect as well as you need to. And you run the ball much better than you're throwing the ball. This is kind of like the epitome of punching yourself in the face. Why are you hurting yourself? USC is averaging literally 42 pass attempts per game. That's third most in the nation. That's almost 7 more pass attempts per game than last year, and almost 6 more times per game than in 2022 when Caleb won the Heisman. A lot of Caleb's runs were extending the play. Some were designed, but a lot of them weren't by design. When Coach Riley was at Oklahoma, the Sooners offense, they never averaged more than 33 pass attempts per game on average through the season. Which, tells me they ran the ball a lot more at Oklahoma. And I think this is one of the reasons I think this is a major factor in why USC has not been able to close out games. When he was asked about, why you're not able to close out games after the Maryland game, Coach Riley didn't just say, I don't know. He actually answered the same question when it was asked a different way. He said, quote, because his team hasn't been able to separate from opponents, that's been the reason why they haven't been able to close out close games, end quote. Well, how much separation does Coach Riley's team need? I mean, they had a 14-point fourth quarter lead on Saturday. Remember when they led Penn State 20-3? This comes back to clock management, plain and simple. Drain the clock with the run game. Don't dwell on the fact that just because a run play didn't work on second down, where you maybe got no gain or you lost a yard, don't let that dissuade you from going forward on 4th and 1. I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. If I could offer Coach Riley words of advice, and he's forgotten more about football than I will ever know, I would still encourage Coach Riley to put Pete Carroll on the staff next year. He's going to be teaching a course at USC. You don't have to walk far across campus to find him. Lean into Coach Carroll. Use him as your consigliere. Use him for advice. Oh, hire an offensive coordinator. That too. Pete Carroll learned that passing the ball too much. Remember when Norm Chow was in charge of the offense at USC? They made a change. Norm Chow was still the offensive coordinator, but Pete Carroll wanted a more balanced offense. They seemed to take off when they did that. And I think playing in the big conference, running the ball more frequently would probably be more advantageous. For whatever reason, the passing game's not working. We know it starts up front with the offensive line. We know the wide receiver room right now is underachieving. But for the most part during the season, they've been able to run the ball with pretty good success. Again, you're 26th in the country in yards per rush. That's pretty good. Do more of that. And when you start using a more clock because you've got the lead, guess what? You might be able to close out these games. We can cherry pick and point to plays here and there and there. I've said it. I think they should have went for it on 4th and 1 at the end of the Maryland game. And I explained why on yesterday's episode of Locked on USC. My everydayers, you heard it. If you missed yesterday's episode, when you're done with this one, go check it out. I explained why. So we'll see what happens. This week, there's already been some changes at practice. Media is not invited until after practice. Interviews only. Can't even come in to watch the skip and stretch. They've gone into the cone of silence. I'm going to explain to you why in the next segment. All right, USC fans, it's time for the Roy Player of the Week. The Roy app lets you directly support your favorite athletes. Unlike collectives where you make a donation to a general fund, Roy lets you choose the specific athlete you want to support. And you back the players you care about, and in return, what they're going to do, you're going to get exclusive content after the season, like personal videos, updates. You might be the first to know when somebody's going to make a commitment. You might even find out first where they're going to go. You never know. And the best part, it's risk-free. If the athlete transfers or doesn't create the content, you're going to get your money back. This is my Roy player of the week. It's Jacoby Lane. Not a lot of people to choose from in this game against Maryland, but that one-handed catch for a touchdown, that was worthy of player of the game. Yeah, for this week. Roy is giving one lucky fan 2 tickets to any game of their choice in November. Here's how you're going to enter. It's really easy. Just download Roy in the App Store or the Google Play Store. Use code LOCKEDON, and when you're signing up, you're automatically entered. If you're already on Roy, great. Make a payment to any athlete's campaign, and you'll also be automatically entered. There's no purchase necessary. It's void or prohibited. Go to joinroy.com for the official rules. Download Roy and try it out. There's no subscription, no recurring fees, and for as little as $10, you can get into the NIL game. Roy, support the players, change the game. So, USC has moved its football practice schedule around this week. And like I said, there's no media viewing periods. We don't get to watch any of those skipping stretches. We still get to show up after practice for, coach and player interviews. It's a short week, so everything was moved up a day. Monday, Coach Riley, offensive players. Now, people are saying, well, they're closing practice because they're making a bunch of changes. Not so fast. Not so fast. Slow down. Let me remind everybody. They closed practices at the end of last year when they were doing their prep for the Holiday Bowl. And that worked. Remember, USC did not finish the season well in the regular season. But they looked like a different team when they showed up in San Diego for the Holiday Bowl, when they whooped up all over Louisville. So, I don't know, maybe Coach Riley's following my advice. They're already in bowl prep mode. Sarcasm. I know a bunch of you are saying, hey, this is great. The media doesn't need to watch the team make a quarterback switch. Look, if you're an everydayer of this show, you watch a show on YouTube, you're listening every day on your favorite channel, you already know that anything that the media sees during practice, which is basically the skip and stretch portion, it doesn't reveal anything. When we're watching them go through, their drills, nothing that they're showing us is going to give us any indication of who is starting, who's with the ones, who's with the twos. Now, it did when we were watching the scout team work. That hasn't been happening. So, again, what I'm saying is that when the media does go into practice, in those few minutes that we're in there, nothing's revealed. So, none of the practice drills that we watch would say, okay, they're making a quarterback switch. Again, this doesn't mean that they're not making any changes, but closing practice, don't let that be, oh, they're doing something. I just remind everybody. Lincoln Riley did this going into the Holiday Bowl. And I think this has more just to do with circling the wagons and removing any of the distractions. Nobody's watching. You guys just get to work. And after practice, Lincoln Riley kind of confirmed that. He said, look, there's no quarterback change. Miller Moss is our starting quarterback, 100%. So if you were waiting to find out, there you go. Miller will be starting. He was also asked if there was going to be any changes with the assistant coaches, maybe taking on new roles going forward. Nothing new there either. He was kind of shocked by that question a little bit. He was unsure, where is this going? Is he firing somebody? That ain't happening. He's not gonna pull a Brent Venables and fire anybody after 7 games through the season. So again, Miller Moss will be starting at home against Rutgers, 100% the starter per Coach Riley. When Miller spoke to the media, he was, he was asked about, hey, what are your feelings about, everybody who's kind of talking negatively about you and about the team right now? And Miller was very straightforward. Said, keep that same energy. All right. Miller's pissed. He's ready to prove it. Coach Riley said, the players, as far as he thinks this is the perfect week for the team. Basically, the guys don't have that much time to dwell on what's been going on. Just short week, come in, work, play the game Friday night. He thinks it works out the best for them. Now, as far as the quarterback situation, for all of you are kind of pounding your fist right now, white knuckling it, clenching your teeth, cursing. Let me ask you this question. Let me play devil's advocate. You ever wonder why Coach Riley hasn't made the move yet? We know that Miller's been struggling. Let me remind everybody, Coach Riley looks for two things in his starting quarterback: leadership and toughness. Those are the first two things he looks for. And Miller checks both of those boxes. And I'm not saying that Jaden doesn't. Not trying to say that at all. But why hasn't he been used in any capacity? I mean, besides the getting in the game late against Utah State. I mean, hell, even last year in the Holiday Bowl, Jake Jensen came in on 4th and 1. Why are there no packages for Jaden so far this season? Not a 4th and 1 opportunity that you can think of? Not even bringing them in during a series just to kind of mix it up. And I'm not even saying Miller has to come off the field. Why don't you have Miller line up in the slot or in the backfield? Make the defense think, what's Lincoln Riley cooking up right now? Because everyone on the field, the defenders would be going, I haven't seen this before. I know USC fans haven't. So the question comes down to this. Does he know the playbook? I'm talking about Jaden Mayava. And again, we don't see the portion of practice where we would be able to compare the two quarterbacks competing. So by them closing practice, again, it's not changing anything as far as what I can tell you what we see. I can only tell you what I hear. And I'm not knocking Jaden down to build Miller back up. That's not what I'm saying. When I'm asking, how come Jaden hasn't seen the field yet? I'm pointing out some things, what Coach Riley talks about with his quarterbacks: leadership, toughness, knowledge of the playbook. So you have to ask, which one of these things is Jaden not lending confidence to Coach Riley and the rest of the staff? I have a feeling he's going to play in this game. I also have a feeling a lot of the more of the younger players are going to see their role increase as well. But as far as the quarterback situation, Miller's your starter. We're all hoping he has a really good game. But I also think you're probably going to see a little bit of Mayava in this game, because you have to start looking to the future. And even though Miller still has another year to come back, he can. You got to start separating the quarterback situation a little bit. You got Miller Moss still available. Jaden Mayava's coming back next year, assuming. You've got Julian Lewis coming in, who's probably looking at USC's quarterback situation thinking, hey, I'll be in the spring. I'm going to compete for that starting job. Could get interesting. So we'll see what happens as the season goes along. But right now, no quarterback change. And so if you're asking how come, I just gave you a few reasons why maybe it's not happening. Does he know the playbook? Is he showing you the coaching staff and the team the leadership traits that you need during practice? Again, I don't know, and I'm not saying he's not. Just kind of throwing everything out there on the table. See what sticks. See what makes sense to you. You let me know. Hit me up in the comments section. If you're watching on YouTube, you know where to find me. All right, we got one more segment coming up. We talk about the snap counts, the players who played, players who should probably be playing a little bit more, Yeah, and I'll give you some editorial content within that as well. That's coming up next. Hey, all of you NFL fans out there, are you enjoying the season? Are you getting a big return? If you're one of those people who likes to bet on the games, you can get a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. And if you're kind of your attention's being split amongst 3, 4 different games, and you need to find out what's going on in the ones you're not watching, you can check out all the latest stats. You can check out live play-by-play, and you could probably do a lot more than that on FanDuel. You don't just place your bets there. You do everything there now. And if you've never used FanDuel before, here's your chance. You're going to get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Win or lose, you get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's FanDuel.com. All right, let me go over the snap counts from this game against Maryland. USC lost 29-28. You already knew that. But who should be playing more? Who should be playing less? We know a quarterback. We just talked about that in the second segment. Miller Moss played all 75 snaps on offense. I don't know how many snaps USC will have on offense against Rutgers. Again, I have a feeling, a hunch. I think Jaden's going to play a little bit in this game. I think they're going to develop a package for him. We'll see what happens. Could be wrong. At running back, 64 snaps for Woody Marks, 10 for Quentin Joyner. That's it. Like I said, I've already talked about the quarterback situation, but when it comes to the running game, yeah, we need to start delegating more run plays to Quentin Joyner. 64-10. That's how many that was the difference. Woody ran it or touched the ball 64. He was on the field 64 times. Quentin was on the field 10 times. Look, Woody has been awesome. I'm not saying that, you need to take him off the field per se. That's not the point I'm trying to make here. But we know Quentin is a playmaker, right? Remember that 75-yard touchdown run? We've seen how close he's come to busting him, where he just gets tripped up when he gets to the second level. Give him the ball more. Coach Riley kind of talked about it after practice Monday. He said it has to do more with when the ball isn't in his hands. He was basically implying that his pass blocking, his route running in pass running in the passing game, yeah, he needs to work on his blocky to get the rocky more. And maybe he's not running his routes correctly. I'm just assuming. But again, when he says it has more to do when the ball's not in his hands, those are the two things that running backs do when they're not running the ball. They're out there for pass protection, running routes. So if Quentin wants to see the field more, maybe it has to do with that. Again, I don't know. Just kind of playing devil's advocate. Excuse me. And then let's look at the wide receivers. Kyron Hudson led the way, 51 snaps. Mekhi Lemon, 49. Jacoby Lane, 47. Zachariah Branch, 46. Kyle Ford, 25. Deuce Robinson, 21. Jay Fair, 4. Charles Ross, 2. That's your wide receiver group. Kyron is out there the most usually because I think he does everything the right way, the way the coaching staff wants. Mekhi Lemon, he's starting to come into his own. He's becoming one of the more dependable pass catchers out there. Kobe Lane, he's not targeted enough. That's all I'm going to say. And I'm not going to beat the Zachariah Branch dead horse anymore. He needs to figure out a way to get more involved, to stop dropping passes, to make some explosive plays. But look, we're halfway through the season. And those sophomores, they're not producing the way we anticipated they would this year. Some of that has to do with the offensive line. I'm going to get to that here in just a second. As far as the tight ends, welcome back, Lake McCree, 50 snaps. Cade Eldridge, 6. Walker Lyons wasn't available. No. You would never know that Lake McCree was hurt, who missed the last few games. Welcome back, right? 50. Going back to the first segment, USC is the most successful in offense when they run the ball and they incorporate the tight end in the passing game. You need more of that. As far as the offensive line, Elijah Page, Jonah Monheim, Alani Noah played all 75 snaps at their starting positions. Left tackle, center, right guard. Emmanuel Prignon, 70. Remember, he had to come out. He hurt his ankle. He only missed one series. Mason Murphy, 74. He had to come off when he was hurt for one play. Then you had Amos Talalele with 5. Those are the 5 that Emmanuel Prignon missed. And Tobias Raymond, 1 snap, the snap that Mason Murphy missed. You want to know why those are the guys who are playing? I just need to drive this point home, make sure everybody understands it. USC has 18 offensive linemen on their roster. I talked about this before, but let me give you the breakdown. You got 3 redshirt seniors, Gino Quinones, Emmanuel Prignon, Jonah Monheim. You've got no standard seniors, none, 0. You've got 1 redshirt junior, Mason Murphy. You've got 1 junior who is a preferred walk-on, Killian O'Connor. No redshirt sophomores. You have 2 true sophomores in Erwin Teomi, Alani Noah. Teomi, the transfer from the JC, arrived really late. He's not up to speed yet. Redshirt freshman, you got 5. Micah Banuelos, Jack Sussner, Elijah Page, Tobias Raymond, Amos Talalele. You've got 6 freshmen. Lolo Taaga, Draylon Miller, Leonard, another walk-on. You got Hayden Trader, Justin Tauanu, and Makai Sena. That's it. So where's your Coach Riley? Where's your Coach Henson turn to, when guys are struggling? They inherited a cobweb closet. That's what was left for them. I mean, it's almost a crime looking back at the offensive line recruiting, Clay Helton, those last couple of years. I mean, where are they? The guys that they did get, flamed out, washed out of the program for whatever the reasons were. On the other side of the ball, defensive line, Braylon Shelby played the most snaps, 66. Devin Tompkins, 54. Nate Clifton, 51. Jamil Muhammad, 48. Sam Green, 22. Good to see. Those numbers are going up. He's been productive. Gavin Meyer, 19. Elijah Hughes, 18. Solo, Solomon Tuliapupu, 15. Remember, he had that fumble recovery. Kobe Pepe, 14. Cameron Fountain, 7. Jade Abasiri, 3. Braylon Shelby was on the field a lot, right? 66 snaps. His stats, 3 tackles, 2 by himself, 1 TFL. Is that good enough? No. I get it, second year in the program, but you need more from him right now. And you're just not getting it. Devin Tompkins, second most snaps. Same numbers, 3 tackles, 2 by himself. The number that jumps out to me, Cameron Fountain, 7 snaps. Is that enough? Is he going to be able to develop? Are you going to be able to see enough of him this season? Are you going to put him back on the redshirt train? And again, why did Jade Abasiri only get 3 plays? Elijah Hughes, he had 18. And I know he was out there. I saw him make a good play. but there's no stats on him. Not on the official USC stat site, not on the ESPN game tracker. You had nothing, no tackles, no pressures, nothing. Linebacker, Mason Cobb, 77. Easton Mascarenas Arnold, 65. Desmond Stevens, 16. Anthony Beavers Jr., 5. You need to start getting the younger linebackers in there. That's too many snaps for Mason, too many for Easton. Save their bodies a little bit. So more Desmond Stevens. Let's start seeing a little bit of Elijah Newby. I don't know if Jaden Walker is healthy enough to play yet, but if he is, let's get him in there. More Anthony Beavers. And then a defensive back, you had Achille Arnold, 79. Jalen Smith, 78. Kamari Ramsey, 72. Greedy Vance, 44. John Humphrey, 41. DeCarlos Nicholson, 36. Prophet Brown, 19. Zion Branch, 17. Bryson Shaw, 3. I don't know. You're looking at the cornerbacks right now. I mean, Jalen Smith was your leading tackler, 11 total, 9 by himself. Second leading tackler, Kamari Ramsey at 7, 6 solo, 1 sack, 1 TFL. When are we going to start seeing some of the younger guys in the secondary? Because it's the opposite side of Jalen hasn't been as good as they could be, especially since Jacoby Covington's been hurt. When does Marcellus Williams see some playing time? What about Braylon Conley? Just saying. These are the guys who are playing. And are you happy with what you're seeing when those guys are on the field? I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. But, besides the wide receivers being maybe one of the most disappointing position groups so far this year, the defensive ends too. Yeah, you still no sacks. Got to change that. They've got to finish those plays. I got to finish this episode. I'll be back with another episode tomorrow. That's what we do around here, 5 times a week, sometimes even more. In fact, during the season, you get a post-game reaction as well. So I'll be back with another episode tomorrow. We'll have more practice information, more team news updates. And until then, everyone, you know what to do.